Okay. I think that's recording now. So what we're doing here is, okay, so we're recording, is we have this emergency handle. We want to put some textures on it. Now I want to do a chrome. So what I'll do is I'll go to my Hypershade, and I picked Anastrophic here. And if I double click on it, it opens up and I can name it Chrome Base. And what I did is I found some chrome that has some striations like brushed metal. And I put it in here in my source images. So if I click on file and I click on file, and then you have to click on file again, which I think you have to click on file too much, but there's one called Chrome 2 and texture. I'm thinking I want the JPEG too. And so I did have this chrome and had some light effects on it. I was really trying to find one without the light effects because Maya's going to put the light on it anyway. I did take this and offset it in Photoshop so that this tiles, these edges tile with this edges, so we won't see those seams if we made it go further than it wanted to go. And we apply that object here as a JPEG, and then it will be inside this chrome. And notice how it didn't show up here in the sample. Sometimes you just have to click again and resend it because it's just weird. So that could be a function of the student version, or it could be just the fact that it's a little glitchy. See how I took the chrome now? And I can take that chrome and I can drag it and apply it to the base. And if we rendered this base, which I'll throw a light in really quickly, boom. I like to take this light and just resize it a bit. And then I can go W, move it around, and we can go E and just change the direction a bit. So it's angled on this light on this. And I'll just do an ambient light, which I'll go 0.3. And then this directional light, which in our Windows outliner, you can see the lights are in here towards the bottom. The directional light, I'll just make it 0.7. Now, I found that this doesn't work well if we render it in Arnold. So going to this gear for your Hypershade, we can change this from Arnold. Arnold needs the lights to be about 10 times as bright. You go to Maya Hardware, and we can go here, or even Maya Software will work. And we can go here and just go to a higher quality. And if you like reflections, this ray tracing is really nice. Takes a little longer to render. We can bump the reflections up a little bit. That's why it takes a little longer to render. And we can render this. And you can see that it has this chrome-like look, depending upon what angle we look at it. Has a little bit of a chrome-like look on it. This we could also, in our Hypershade, if we double click, we can go down here to the bump map and use that same chrome. I know that chrome image doesn't have a lot of contrast, but we could still add it, and it would help to give these lines a little bit of a bump, like they have a little bit of a texture. And this bump depth here, I'll probably make it 0.2 and hit enter. And let's see if that is giving me a little bumpier look. Let me try going to bump, and I'll go to 0.5. And it depends upon the size of this object. 0.2 normally works pretty well. And it depends upon your lighting. But see how that has a little bit of a ridginess to it. I think I'll take that same chrome and apply it to the handle. by middle mouse dragging it. And we can go here. And you can see that it has a little bit of a glimmer on it. And so it's applying like this, which is a good direction. So we don't have to rotate it. And I think it looks good. The only thing I would do maybe is come in here with, I'll pick a shiny one. The Fongs seem to work pretty well. Double click on the Fong. And here I can change the color to a nice reddish color. Because I think for emergencies, they should be red. Maybe a little darker on the burgundy-ish side.
I know it's horizontally, but it's meant to be vertical on the wall, and he can like pull it down.
Oh, pull it down or push it up?
Yeah, like it's supposed to be tilted up, and then he can pull it down.
That's perfectly fine, and there'll be a sign above it saying emergency exit or pod release or something. Okay, so that's fine. I'm going to say done here. I'm going to take this and put it on that there. So that's why I made it a separate shape. I really like the way the transparency looks on that.
Yeah.
And so if we zoom out a little bit and render it, you can see it. Then you can, to pull it down, you have to push your hand in. When you grab it, your palm pushes it down. And then when it pushes down, it could light up because we can change the incandescency of it so that it glows. I'm going to render it here again.
Now, how do you cut individual pieces of a project?
Yeah, this is a separate piece now. I'm going to turn the incandescency down. Actually, there's a way of making this object glow. So if we go here, it could probably always glow. Object display, you let it, you can actually hide different things, but there is a place to make this glow. Maybe it's extra attributes. I have to remember. So let me look here. Display, mesh controls, smoothing mesh, displacement map, object display. There's actually a way of making this sphere glow. I'm going to have to find that out and show you next time because it's actually pretty cool. But watch. If we're in our outliner here, you can come in here to the outliner, and if you grab the sphere, and we would like to name it, we'll call it push button. There, push button. And then this handle, we'll call it handle. And then this base, we can call it base. Or you can be more specific if you want. So if we want to move this, and we'll rotate it, we'll put it on the wall inside the Space Lab, probably above the test tubes. Because if the test tubes start overflowing and alien creatures start coming out, you pull the handle and maybe it puts a force field around everything, or it ejects you from the space station, or it ejects the test tube. So it could be used for a few different things. We could actually make 2 or 3 of them with different colors. The one that I liked when I was, before 9/11, I got a tour of the Portsmouth, which was a nuclear submarine in Point Loma. I don't think they do tours as much anymore, but in the main conning tower, the main control room, they had a big pink button which scrammed the nuclear reactor, which it would take maybe a couple days to unscram the reactor. If you had an emergency, it would force the fuel rods to go back into the liquid and stop the nuclear reaction, which I think is a very good thing. But I just was tempted to push the button, and I'm sure that would be a very bad thing. So it wouldn't be a horrible thing, but I'm sure they would consider it
the next nuclear war, so it would have been okay.
Well, no, it would stop the reactor, and probably I would be charged with a felony. But anyway, so here we can parent these things together. Now, this button, we want it to be able to move independently. So we can take it, and if we have the push button, we can go to the handle. Now, notice how these may be far apart. If I look at where the handle is,
Yeah.
it may be far apart. Oh, it's right next to the push button. But if it wasn't, you can use your middle mouse and actually move these and
Oh,
push
it's
them
middle
further.
mouse. Okay.
Yeah. Now, you just push it down. Now, if you move it, you don't want to drop it on anything or else you parent it to it. In this case, I do want to parent it, but if you move it till it goes to one line, you can just move it so it's easier to parent. So I'm going to parent this handle to the base so that it's parented to the base. So if the base is moved to the wall, the handle will move with it. And then this button here, I clicked off to the side to deselect this rotation, or you can hit Q to deselect it. It gets in the way. And this push button, I want to parent to the handle. So now if the handle moves, which I'm going to go,
The
button. The button will move. So it's like, my example is, if you ever see a woman in Walmart and they have a 5-year-old child on a leash, you kind of think that's cruel, but wherever the parent goes, the child has to follow. So wherever this handle goes, this child has to follow. But the child can move a little independently. They could spin around, or in this case, the button can move up and down, and it still can move independently in that way. You just don't lose your child in Walmart, which may be actually nicer than we think. So here, I'm going to hit E for this handle, and I want to hit D to move the pivot down so it's somewhere in the middle here. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually put a pin through there so it looked like it had a hinge point, but we don't need that. This has a hidden pin, that's fine. I think it's a beautiful design, so don't get me wrong. I'm going to hit D. So if this one rotates, you can see it can rotate here, and it can rotate there.
Yeah, I had a design flaw, which is why you see the sides bullying out like that, because I actually had to round it out. I'm like, oh, but when you pull the switch down, it poly each other, like going through the entire base. So I pulled up the sides and curved it in like that.
If you had a wall, you wouldn't see it, or you could do this handle where you actually, it's in the future, the handle could go like this.
Yeah.
Which would look interesting from a perspective view. And for animated stuff, it could probably be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I was thinking of pulling it myself. Control Z on that. But yeah, you can do a few different things with it. In this case, you can rotate it. Now, if I hit E, you can actually go in and sometimes, let's see, trying to think if we can constrain the rotation. On AK items, bones, you can actually constrain how far they move. I think with this handle, we can't constrain how far it rotates. So we just have to, when we animate it, make sure that we don't push it further than the stop here, right there.
Yeah, is there a way you can like tell it where to stop?
If we use the bone to move it, we could.
Oh, okay.
Because bones, if we put a bone in here, let's actually do it. And we'll just put a bone in here just to be different. Take this object and we'll go to rigging and we'll put a bone in here. I just put 2 bones in there. And then if I grab it, I don't think I can have the button parented if I'm doing a bone like this. It likes it to be the whole thing. But I'm going to go shift and actually joint and then control to get just the handle and see if it'll let me under rigging and rigging do a bone, fine skin And so if I was going to bend this by going to this bone here in our joints, and I go E and rotate it.
Oh, that's weird.
See how it gives you a little joint like an elbow? Well, that works. And with these, if you go here, you can actually set a constraint on the rotation. So you can tell it to rotate stiffness, and you can tell it how much it can rotate and joint orientation and how far it can move. And you can actually constrain those joints. I need to go over this a little more because I could tell it not to go past a certain amount. So it's actually an interesting look there. And it's interesting that it does work with something parented on top.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an organic movement, which is okay. Let's look at it at a perspective. I've never done that before. It looks like he's just bending it like Superman.
Like it's melting or something from the heights.
Yeah, yeah. Could certainly do something like that. Now, when you're using bones, you can actually go here under skin and go back to bind pose. So it'll go back to where it was straight again. So that's a neat thing when you're doing your animations with characters. You can go back to the bind pose. So it goes back to where it was initially. I'm going to undo these and get rid of the bones. There we are. And so with this one, we were just going to rotate it to do that. And when you rotate it, you can certainly grab. Notice if you're on the handle, you can use your arrow to go up or down. You can get to this button here, and we can go W and push it down in a little ways, or we could use R even to make it get shorter like that. And that would work as a button. Just with the other button under, actually with the other button underneath, it might be a neat look.
Yeah.
See how that look is? I actually like that. It's kind of neat. And then when we go here, we can go Control Z and Control Z. There we are. And it'll look like that. And then when it's pushed in, you can see the other part sticking out. Now this, I see my facets a little more. Remember, we can go here to edges and we can grab all the edges and we can go under modeling. A lot going on in this program. And here to poly modeling, and we can go to mesh display and we can soften the edges. So if I do push this down into there and we go like this, it still sees a little bit of the facets, but Control Z, I could take this, and if it's still a polysphere, I could bump up these sizes. Now, if you modify the sphere and pull certain parts out, you can't change these subdivisions after the fact, or else it gives you a weird result. I'll show you. In this case, we didn't modify this much. It's just, I'm going to save this. And so now we have this handle, and this one I can set back to 0. And we have this handle we can put in, and we would take this and we could rotate it 90 degrees and put it on the wall.
Yeah, there we go. That sounds good.
So if you pull it down, it ejects your space pod. If you push it up, it probably activates a halon system that kills the fire in the system. Yeah. So maybe there would be a label up here, fire retardant and eject. I think maybe you would want to use this just for eject.
Yeah, and it can be tilted all the way up.
I think if you make a mistake, it wouldn't be good. So
yeah,
we'll
like
take it all the way up.
Like that on the wall, and then he can come by and like pull it down. Once you pull it down at least halfway, it should automatically already just let itself go.
Yeah, and so here, what other thing I did Oh, is that like a pivot point in there?
Yeah, it's supposed to like be hooked around that.
That's really actually very nice. We could take this and just push it in a little more. I think that looks okay.
Yeah, I had it. I think you pull it up a little. You see where it's like really thin at the bottom. That's where it's supposed to be.
Oh, it just
Yeah, like
attaches on the very thin point.
down a little more. Yeah, like right up just a little more. Right, then you can pull it out, and then it's supposed to.
Oh, so you can actually
And I think,
remove the handle if you have to.
yeah, and pull it forward because I think it's still like it's supposed to be like hooked around that cylinder thing. I think
Oh,
it stays like right in the middle there.
okay, I got you. Oh, okay, so that goes through the center of it like a pivot point.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like it. I didn't put a hole there, but there's supposed yeah, it's supposed to be like sounds like hooked on that thing, and then it would.
You don't need to put a hole. We're never going to see it. Um,
Yeah, that's the.
one thing I like doing here, Control S, continue, is almost every aircraft that has aluminum, they use this zinc chromate primer, which is a fluorescent green primer. And so I think inside this area here where the handle is exposed, we could do this and we could make a primer. I'll probably use a Berlin. And that Berlin, I would go here and call it primer. And this primer works really well on aluminum. It's horrible for you. You're supposed to wear a full bodysuit. But when I was a kid, I sprayed so many airplanes with my dad, and you'd get it in your nose, and you blow your nose, and green would come out. And so I don't know what irreparable damage I've done to myself, but I think I'm okay. I'm okay. I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so face. So if we get this face here and even these side faces. Now you can't drag this to apply it because it would go to the whole base, but I want to get these edges in here too. I think there's one here and one for there. Let me do this with the handle. If you grab the handle, object mode, you can actually display hide selection, and we can come in and come here. I think the pin should be just a regular metal, which it is. But here with the faces, if I get this one, this one, this one, Shift, Alt, this end one, this one, and then Alt, this one, and then this one. Here, I can apply this chrome by going assign material to selection. So then when we look at this on the wall and we say display, show all, we can then come in here and zoom in a bit on it and render it. And we can see that it has the primer inside.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That looks like a switch.
Sometimes things like this, like on your car, have kind of a rubber sleeve, but I think this works really well for a spaceship or an airplane. Though in space, you're probably not going to get any corrosion, but they still do zinc chromate primer on aluminum. So I like that word, zinc chromate. So I'm going to save this. Thank you very much for making the switch. AJ sent me one. So AJ, how are you doing? You still there, AJ?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I emailed it.
Okay,
you.
so I'm gonna go here. I'll go get it and I'll download it and then we'll look at it and talk about it a bit.
Yeah.
So let me go here and I'll just go Control N, Hotmail. and AJ, and we'll download it. Download, and then I'll go to my downloads. You can't see this, but that's okay. Downloads, and I'll go here. Was it just called Button?
Yeah, just called Button.
Button, good. That's a good name for it. We'll go here, Button, and we'll say open. The reason I had you guys do a little thing, this is opening Maya again. I don't need it to, okay. Is I just want you to work a little bit on your own, because just watching me is not necessarily as good. So I'll go in here and I'll minimize. Come on. It opened Maya twice. I might have to quit out of Maya. Let's open Button and see if that works. I will paste the button into Space Mouse. It's trying to open Maya again. Gosh.
Is it
I
just my
actually-
Zoom that's
well,
making it like that?
I accidentally clicked on open, and so it's opening it. So here's your button. Oh, this has got a plastic case. That's very cool, AJ.
Yeah, I gave it a little. Yeah, it was like a little glass something. You have to break or open it up or something, or break
Okay.
it before you can
break
do
it.
whatever
so
the button
and
wants.
you hit it with your hand because you don't care at that point. You
Exactly.
don't care if your glass
I
is
think the
broken.
screen frozen or something. I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it. Oh, I have to share. This is a new Maya. That's why it's not sharing it. I'm going to say share. And can you see this one?
Oh yeah, nice.
Can you see it move?
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I see. your
Okay,
screen.
very good. So I put ambient light in here, and I'm going to go to outliner. And the directional light, I'll just bump it down again. Depends upon how bright the Space Lab is. I kind of got a feeling the Space Lab is a little darker, just because it'd be more sinister that way. And so we're going to get away from Arnold here. We'll go to here and go to our Maya. Again, I need to figure out and see if I can get this to be the default so I don't have to keep changing it. Or maybe I just have to paste things into a certain scene. So production quality is good here. And if you turn on this ray tracing at the bottom, it's going to give the reflections. This has got a lot of reflections, which might be fun. Refractions, I'm going to bump down a bit in shadows. So let's zoom in on this and see what it looks like when it's rendered. So we're getting some reflections on this, which is fine. And so you can see it. And so you can break the case. Now, there's an interesting way to make the case broken. Is if you make another one, you duplicate this case and you break it up. If it goes from one frame to being broken and not broken, let me show you that. It's kind of a neat way of doing it. You can do it in After Effects also, but you can do it in Maya. So if I take this case, the glass cover, I think I'll just break the glass cover, and I go Control D and I duplicate it, and I move it over here. And I just moved it over here for fun. And I can take this and you can, I think if I make a shape, I'm going to duplicate this again and move it over. I'm not going to take a lot of time making it perfect, but let's say that we took and we went here, these vertices, and we moved them. And I want to move them with the constrain handles. Oops. my symmetry is on. So I'm going to go here, turn my symmetry off. And I'm going to grab just these and move it W in and over. Interesting there. And I'll take these, getting 2, so that should work, in and over. Now, I'm not making a lot of these, but you could make 2 or 3 of these. Let me actually do that. I'll take this one and I'll make it thicker. Object, and I'll go R, make it thicker. Then I'll duplicate it, Control D, and I'll rotate it. And I'll go R, make it smaller, and I'll go W. Maybe put it right about, I'm using the constraint handle so that it stays lined up. Control D, move this one over, E, rotate it like that. Maybe, I think that's probably gives you enough broken places where you can Control D, W, move it over here, E, rotate it around, and W, put it in here. And I'll just go R, make this one a little bigger this way, E, rotate it a little bit, W, move it this way. And so if I take these and I put them over here, oops, see how they're moving apart?
Yeah.
That's because they have memory of where they were. So you actually have to go up here under Edit, Delete by Type History, and then you have to go Modify Freeze Transformations so that it sets them all to 0. That way they'll move together. It's a real weird thing in Maya I don't necessarily like. I'm going to do a duplicate of this so I can actually put the pieces flying out or something if I wanted to. But if I took this, and I would have to take these, and I need to combine them so that they'll Boolean. Sometimes the combine works and sometimes it doesn't. Select the glass first, this, and then mesh Boolean difference. And so there's my broken glass. Didn't do a great job there, but I think it works. So, and we can put these pieces laying around, but if the glass broke like that, I'm going to put this back W right into place where the other one is. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to hide this. So here you can say visibility off. 0 is off, or you can type off. So it's gone. So here's my button, and I'll hit S. So here for the first couple seconds, 424 and 24 is 48. I'll hit S, but then all of a sudden a hand comes and touches it. So the next frame, 49, I can take this glass on 48. I can tell this glass to have a keyframe on visibility to key selected. So the visibility is on at 48, but at 49, this glass is off. And I can say key selected. So as it comes here, 49, it's on and it's off. And then I can select the other glass, which its visibility is off, which I'm not sure which cube it is. I should have named it. Its visibility is turned off, so I have to actually find it. Did I call it glass? No. So one of these is it, and it'll be visibility off. So look over there where it says on and tell me if you see one that says off, because I'm looking elsewhere. On. Cube 6. On. I don't see it. I know I got one. All right, so it's one of these. Now I can undo until I get back to it. There it is. That glass is off. So on 48, 47, I'll give it a key for visibility off with my right mouse, key selected. And then on 48, I'll give it a visit. Now you could do this in After Effects too, but I'll turn it on, which is 1 is on, and I'll key that. So as this is animated, so one frame, one's on and the other one's off, and there we are with the glass broken. And you can put this shattered glass around, which I hid. They can be pieces elsewhere or not. And then this button could at crash, and then here the button, we could do keyframe S, and then here we can push the button in, even make it disappear like that into the other object. That I think is kind of neat. And so if we animated this, so I need to make a space claw. Well, I have his claws to crack the glass, and then he can push it from the edge there. So I kind of like that, where things can disappear and appear in one frame. Since it's only one frame, you don't have time to see the animation. It's just appearing. So neat button, AJ. And now that it's animated, we can actually copy and paste it in the scene. It'll be animated. I might take the animation away. Good job. Let me talk a little bit about the Space Lab. Stop this. I'll save. I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to say save as, and I'll save it into Space Mouse. We'll call it button. Actually, I should have called it button 2. It'll be okay. I'll call it that. And there we are. Okay, so the next one, I will open my Space Lab. I think I just called it Space Lab. And I wanted to show you how to do the stairs in that Space Lab. Did I call it Space Lab, or did I call it, I need to write these things down. What did I call it last time? Shaker face, frog, juice, Jupiter, Sensei mouse, scout ship. Scout ship's actually pretty neat. Sculpt, space arm, space suit, claw, face, soupy. Did I just call it lab?
I can't remember, but maybe.
Trumpet ball.
Also have those test tube things too that you made, vials.
For the test tube rack we made, but we didn't put it in the rack. Zeppelin wire twist. Maybe it is A, B, C, D, E. See how this is getting a little overwhelming, so I should probably put the lab in its own project. Needle large, pair dance, scout ship, sculpt. Space station. Everything's named space. Good. Don't save. Continue. So we had the space station, which we Boolean things out of it. We got a ring for him to walk around. Got a nice reflection on it. If we go to wireframe, which is 4, you can see that we started putting some levels inside here. There's a level up here on top, and there's a level, I think, lower down. You get 2 levels. There's 2 levels. And on those levels, if I hide the space station, you can see I'm going wireframe, which is 5, that we made a hole here so that he can go through that hole and down. Now you see these have facets, but the outside hides these edges anyway. And so I want a spiral staircase that comes down here. So I'm going to make a cube. There's kind of a neat way of doing this in poly modeling. I'll make a cube, and I'll take this cube and I'll go R, stretch it out and flatten it. So it's just a step coming down. Now, if we wanted to be more space station-like, we could do an oval that was flat. But let's try the cube first. If it had rounded edges, then if you're drifting around, you wouldn't puncture your spacesuit. So maybe that might be better. Let me do a cylinder. I like the cylinders, but I like to go in with the cylinder and give this end cap a 0. So it has that flat top. So it's easier to select those. And so he's a mouse. He can use these to step down on. I was thinking of actually making a wheel in here so he can exercise. You know, like a rat on a wheel. And so I can take this and I'll go W and I'll move it. I'm going to put it up near this hole where he can step down. I think there's not a lot of gravity, so we don't necessarily need a rail. Put that up there and look through the hole, get an idea of what we're seeing. It's right there. Just step on the hole. I think we'll put it right about here so he can step down to there. And so to duplicate this, there's duplicate special. We need to come all the way down to this base part. And it could even go through the base part down to the base of the station if we duplicated this correctly. So I'm going to take this, and what I want to do is move the pivot to the center of the station. So I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm going to go wireframe 4. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to go D, and we'll move this to the center of the station. And if you really wanted to snap correctly, you could snap to point and see how it snaps to points, but always turn that off. Always gives me a problem. So now if I duplicate this and I rotate it and I move it down, it should give me a series of steps. So I'm going to go here and go to my perspective view and look at it. And this grid is, I think my grids are centimeters. So this duplicate special, it does it by the grid unit. So if I move this down 1 grid or half a grid, so I want to translate, I'm going to go edit and reset these settings so they're all zeroed out, edit. All of these tools, when you go to the checkbox you can reset here. And so I want to translate down X, Y, Z. So I want to go Y down. And I want to go down 0.5. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say I need 20. If I have too many, I can delete them. I want them to come down, but I also want them to rotate a certain amount, a number of degrees. So let's say they rotate, I'm going to say 20 degrees. So I want them to rotate 20 degrees on the y-axis, which is this green one here. So they'll come forward. And so that way is actually minus because it's going counterclockwise, or I could go the other way. So rotate X, Y, I'll go minus 20 and I'll apply. And if it's not right, we can adjust it. It's going up, okay? But it did make a nice spiral staircase up to the top of the station, which is, we probably need that. To get to the dome at the top. Let me grab it and do it down. Do you think that spacing is good?
Yeah.
Depending upon how big the mouse is. And it's staying inside the dome except for near the top. It'll probably stick out of the dome. This should get a little wider here. Let's try this. We'll go 20 and we'll apply. Oops. Oh, it's making a DNA. Kind of neat, actually. I think I'll leave them, but I will go. The rotation was okay at 20, but we want it to go down, translate -5, and apply. Oops. I'm doing something wrong. Gosh, that looks neat. Control Z. So I want it to come and rotate along the Y, X, Y. 20 is good. It's going the right direction. We don't want it to scale. We want it to come down 0.5, but we want it to be minus 0.5. There it is. Okay. So if I bring back my space station, I've got way too many steps, but you can see if we go inside and we go with 5, and I think I have some lights inside there. We go inside, you can see that there's steps going up, kind of these floating steps, which the mouse can hop from one to the other to go up to another level, or he can go down to another level. Down there. Do we have them going down to the other level? I think we do over on this side. So it comes down to that landing there. So I need to get rid of the extra steps, but I think they work. I don't have any hatches on those areas, but I think they're okay. And then these guys here, we can just shift and delete them because they're outside of the spaceship. Q to get rid of the tool. So you can make staircases that way by moving them. This case, I rotated them. And I think they turned out looking all right. Kind of a DNA thing. Here we got some coming out the bottom. Oops. I'm gonna go 5 or 6 for the texture. There's an X-ray view here. I'm trying to remember which one was the X-ray view. I think it was this one. No. Remember we found the X-ray view before? Do you remember which one it was?
Oh yeah, it was.
We put a grid on there.
Oh, it's way over to your right. Keep going right. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. Over.
Over one more?
Go left now.
Left. This one?
Is that one right?
No, I don't know. It's not giving me an X-ray mode. So, interesting. I think it was right up in here somewhere. All right. Well, at any rate, 7 gives us a light view, and we really don't have a light here, but we can certainly add lights to it. And that's just like to make it larger. You don't have to have it inside the station. It should still go inside the station. I believe this light, no, I don't know if it goes through the walls. Let's do it and see. E. Let's see if it goes through the walls. It looks like we have a light inside already. So where's our lights? If we look here, we can look at our lights. We have a directional light and we have a default light set. We got a point light inside the building. We have another directional light. So we can light different things, but we can certainly do this and have the lighting be different on this. Setting this to software and going to higher quality. And then I do like the ray tracing. This doesn't have any reflections. We might not need ray tracing. Doesn't have as much glass look. And so there's our space station with a pretty bright light. And then it's got, if you look in the windows, it's got a point light inside. And we have the glass, and you can see the steps coming up. And then we can put a switch on the wall in a certain place. Going to save this. Space station. I think I'm just going to call it station. And save. Now, when I was working on your switch, Kyle, I just went to a certain place where I was adding textures where the whole thing broke and it added all sorts of weird polygons, which was a glitch in Maya. So you want to definitely save different versions as you go along so you can go back if that happens. It was just a glitch where I couldn't fix it. So
Yeah, before I like actually hypershade it and everything.
Well, yeah, but just save versions as you're going along and make sure you do that for everything because there was a glitch that just ruined the object and I couldn't fix it. So,
Okay.
I mean, I had the original. So this is here. And then if we want your switch, we can go File, Open Scene. And it was called Emergency Switch. And I need to put the table with the test tubes in there too. But we can go here and get to Emergency Switch. Open. I can take the whole thing. And I don't have any animation on it, but if it did, it would come with it. And I'll control And I'll just copy this. File, open.
Yeah, I didn't want to put any keyframes in, so like I was probably gonna mess it up if you tried to put it anywhere else.
Well, no, it'll actually bring the animation in, which might be okay or might not be. And then this is under station. And we'll paste it. Might be really big.
Yeah, it's gonna be really very
If I hit F, I can.
Yeah.
That's really very cool, actually. At that size, looks like a stick shift. But we can take it in R. Should be able to resize it without it up. See how it's moving around?
Yeah.
So let me take this, and before, remember how we talked about freezing, modify, freeze transformations, and edit, delete by type. Let's see if that works. It does. Going inside. And we'll go R. I'm going to go wireframe so I can see this. And we'll scale it down. You can actually turn it inside out if you scale it too small. And we can go and put this on the wall. Now, to position this, if you go to a right view, you can move it in and you can see where the walls are. And I think if this was up and about where the height of a window,
Yeah.
just right there, it may be that you don't want it exactly in the window. So if I go to the front view, you can see that's putting it right where the window is. You can put it next to a window. And this is a floor level. Our floor level's here and here. So I think that's a little high maybe. Well, if it's Space Mouse's face is right there, we'll move it down just a little bit. We'll get the base. I use the up arrow to get to the base because they're parented. Move it down about here, and that's right above this base level. And then we'll look, we might be able to, let's do this. We'll move it here right underneath the window, which makes sense. Bring it down. And let's see in the right view if it's up against the wall. It's in the wall. So I'm going to have to angle it just slightly so that it is conforming to the wall. That's pretty good there. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to my object settings here in the move tool. And I'm going to tell it to be global world. See how it moves the axis? Because I want to move the pivot D right here to the middle. You can snap it to a grid or even to a grid here. So it snaps. And so I want to duplicate this. How many windows did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yeah, I want to say 6 or 8.
Let's go to perspective. It's either 6 or 8. Let's see what we have. 6. So I'm just going to duplicate it and put it under every window because I think that makes sense to have it under every window, which might interfere with this step here, but we'll play with it and see. That one we might remove if it's in the way of a step. But let's do this. Now it's on this level. We might want one on the upper levels too, but let's do this here. And we'll go to Edit, Duplicate Special so you see it again. And we'll open it up. I'm going to reset it under Edit to reset. And I want to rotate this and I want to get 5 more of them, not 6 more. Already have one. And so 6 into 360 is how many degrees? 360 divided by 6, 36 divided by 6?
That's full.
6,
6.
0. So we want to rotate it
60.
6 degrees on the y-axis, which is this green one, and apply. And so now we have those handles inside on under every window. The only one I'm worried about a little bit is this one here to see if it interferes with the step, and it doesn't. The step is far enough away. So if we go inside our dome and we go and look, they're on the walls. They're underneath each window. And we're starting to get this space lab. So I need to put my table in there with the test tubes. I need to, on that desk, have that other button for AJ. And we might have that on a couple desks just to make sure. But now we have this emergency escape thing. Now, when we flip this, Kyle, what happens?
If you flip it like what, like upside down, or?
No, if you flip this switch, it's emergency escape.
Yeah.
And so does something come and a force field wrap around Space Mouse and he shoots out a hole?
Well, I was thinking like,
Does the window blow out and he's sucked out the window?
yeah, maybe like a self-destruct too timer. I'm not sure. Like it's something that's only used in emergencies though.
Okay, it's for emergencies. I think if we pull this handle down, it'll blow the window out and then he can shoot out the window.
Yeah, I guess they can do like evacuation switches.
Well, I mean, they can be anything. We can think about it and see. We've got them, but I think if you've got them, you have to have some reason for them. I like these steps that are floating.
Yeah.
It's kind of modernistic, but if we wanted to, we could have put a rod down from this step so they were all attached by rods.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, but I like them floating at this point. You can make a rail too with that duplication. So I think that's looking good. We've got these things in here. I'll get AJ's button in here. I'll start putting some desks in there. And then I think if you do this, maybe this thing comes out of the walls and it's just a pod that wraps around Space Mountain and he shoots out the top of the spacesuit and he's safe, you know?
Maybe the button used for the self-destruct, sometimes glass and you have to break it, so it's like your last alternative. Like if you're being captured, you might as well self-destruct.
Well, that's true. I'm not hoping for that, but certainly we can do that. All right, so there's the space station with some stairs and things. Thank you, everybody. Doing a great job. And this one we can hit E and we can rotate it down. Maybe this is where you have to release all 6 of them and the top of the dome comes off.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the saucer section on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And while you're releasing these, the Borgs are trying to kill you. So that's the suspense. You have to get to each one before you can escape. All right, any rate, I think the station's looking interesting. I think it's fun. There it is. The dark side of the station. Actually, very
Great
fun.
album.
Yes, Pink Floyd, Pink Mouse.
Pink Mouse, Dark Side of the Station.
Yeah, I like the Muppet. The drummer's name is Floyd, and he's pink. So
I never realized.
yeah, it's kind of funny. That was the first album I ever bought, Dark Side of the Moony. It's actually Dark Side of the Moon, but I call it Dark Side of the Moon. Okay, we're going to save this station. I'm going to say File, Save Scene As, and I'm going to call it Station 2. Just save some versions. I found a glitch in my end. It's not fun. If everybody wants to start working, and it could be a 2 or 3 week project, but I do want you to do a little bit on your own so you're not just watching. Do an escape pod for Space Mouse. It could be like a scooter. It could be like a pod that just goes around him. with a rocket exhaust, but do an escape pod. And then we can either have that attached to the outside of the station, kind of like a lifeboat on Titanic or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say stop record.